All right, everyone. My name is Flo Davis, and today I'll be doing a presentation on design thinking. Your why is more important than what. So, pretty much for this presentation, we're gonna try our best to cover a lot of material here. But if you would like to download the slides, just make sure that you put your email and name here at this address, or if you just want to network with other members. This will be kind of like a Google Sheet share, so I can send the slides to you. So we'll kind of get started with a little bit of my background. So I have over 10 years experience in design and web development. Most of my career has been in Silicon Valley, where I had the pleasure of working for several Fortune 500 companies, including Google, Apple, and Salesforce. Right now, I'm currently the founder of Focus Vision Design Group, where I focus on workshop and trainings in the area of design, as well as I'm a creative lead for a large financial institution. So if you would like to connect with me, just go to linkedin.com/Flo Davis. And if you'd like to join my meetup group, meetup.com/front-end creatives. And just a little bit of background about me. I'll give you, so my presentation style, I try to be as really interactive as possible. I know per se people can't jump on stage, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop something in the chat, and then I'll try to ask you guys questions as well. So this is kind of like, what do you think design thinking is, right? So a lot of times when you hear design thinking, you see a lot of sticky notes, more sticky notes like crazy. Do you get the picture? It's okay, if it doesn't matter. That's pretty much the wrong impression of design thinking if you think it's just a bunch of sticky notes. Let me show you a video of what design thinking, that really is. Oh, so in this, let me see if, I apologize, the Google Slides doesn't show the video here. Let's see if I could bring a video over to you guys so you could kind of see what design thinking is. So I'll escape this full screen mode just for a second. So this is really what a true product of design thinking is.
Robot specializes in modern welfare technology that helps the elderly and people with mobility disabilities to become more independent and self-reliant. The company has developed innovative kitchen and bathroom designs for private homes, senior housing, schools, and institutions that are height adjustable and super accessible. Robox Kitchen Solutions construct upper cabinets that are height adjustable either manually or electrically. These can also move out from the wall to have a closer proximity to the user, or stay in place where only the shelves are height adjustable. A kitchen countertop can also be mounted on a lifting system. You can even choose a kitchen from a regular kitchen supplier and mount the lifting systems to create a disability-friendly kitchen. This allows wheelchair users to adjust the table to the height they need to sit comfortably by the table. It's also an obvious choice when children help out in the kitchen. The Robox Kitchen Solutions make the users more independent and self-reliant in the kitchen due to the adjustment possibilities. The kitchen solutions are suitable for training kitchens, private homes, senior housing, schools, and institutions. Robox's bathroom solutions offer a design that's flexible, functional, stable, and ergonomic. All of these factors are important when customizing the needs of the elderly and the disabled. With easy-to-reach and maneuver wash basins, grab rails, shower seats, toilet lifters, support arms, and nursing benches within an individual's range, the user can have a better quality of life. Robox provides two types of height-adjustable wash basins, the swing wash basin and the support wash basin. The swing wash basins are ideal for wheelchair users and walking impaired people, as they can use the wash basin while seated to prevent fall injuries. The support wash basin is solid and especially suitable for walking impaired people. If someone uses the wash basin in combination with the shower seat and toilet support arms, they can get great support and can be easily seated in daily bathroom situations. Robox bathrooms make the elderly and people with mobility disabilities more independent. That means they can get assisted aids that make it easier to wash their hands, use the toilet, and take a bath. The need for help from nursing assistants is also reduced, and the caregivers get more time for other tasks. That's all for today, and if it's your first time here, make sure to follow or subscribe. I'll see you again very, very soon.
Awesome, awesome. So that sums up what the design thinking really is all about. And this is one of innovative products for design thinking. I'm going to go back just a second. So I see a lot of people asked about the Google Sheets. So I'm going to drop this in the chat really quickly. So you just sign here and just put your name, email, LinkedIn, and we'll definitely get the slides to you. So before we saw a bunch of sticky notes, and then we've seen an innovative product from design thinking. So what is design thinking in a nutshell and what it's all about? So design thinking is a philosophy and a set of tools that helps you solve problems creatively. There are many problem-solving philosophies, including Lean, Agile, and Six Sigma. But what makes design thinking unique is these other technologies focus exclusively on the problem or some technology. Design thinking takes a human-centered approach, which means it empathizes and figuring out who are you designing for, what are the needs. Only then can you help them solve the problem and innovate on their needs. So basically, same thing like what I just showed you guys. You're really, the user at that point was disabled or elderly user. So the main thing that design thinking is just a certain type of philosophy, right? So the main thing that distinguishes design thinking from a lot of these methodology, it takes a very human-centered, human-first approach. So you're really empathizing with the user and putting yourself in that person's shoes. Some of the main framework that we have in design thinking. Now, remember, this is not a linear framework, but there is a 5-step process to this. Empathize, pretty much what we saw in the video earlier. Innovation should be human-centered. Define, innovation should solve a problem. Ideate, innovation is born from a clash of ideas. Test, innovation should be refined as well as prototype. And here are other, again, the same framework, not a linear path, but different levels of understanding. They have pretty much the same 5, 6 consistent principles. Implement, put the vision into effect. Empathize, conduct research. Develop an understanding of the users. Define, combine all your research and observe where a problem exists. Ideate, generate a range of crazy creative ideas. Prototype, build real and tactile representation, as well as test. So test is also major, getting that real feedback from your users. And last, we're going to kind of drill this into your head, right? So again, 1, empathy, understanding the user's problems. 2, define the problem concretely. 3, ideate, come up with multiple solutions. One example might be a design sprint. 4, prototype. And 5, test with real users. So what is empathy? So empathy is a broad sense. The term of empathy is the ability to see the world through the lenses of others. Even though design thinking, like I've said, is not a linear process, I honestly believe that empathy is one of the most important steps of the process. So I was spending a lot of time here on that, on the empathy part. So how do you empathize from a user perspective? So that's pretty much a question. Does anyone have any idea of what they would do to like empathize from a user perspective? Feel free to drop it in the chat. Oh, yeah, role playing. That's really good. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Cool. So, as a designer or creative problem solver, you should start with observing, engaging, and empathizing with the users. Storytelling. Oh, yeah, that's a really good one. Put yourself in their place from their view. Correct. Correct. Awesome. Awesome. You guys are awesome. Find a diverse test group to ask questions. So, this is kind of a trick question. And then I didn't explain the difference between empathy and sympathy, but I'm gonna take a time out and see if anyone can kind of get it. And then I'll give you guys a real world example of empathy versus sympathy. But I wanna see like where your minds are going so far. So drop in the chat the difference between empathy and sympathy. Let's see what we have here. Find it. Anyone want to take a stab at empathy versus sympathy? All right. Well, I'll give you guys an example. Oh, empathy is feeling for them. Trying to Google, no Googling. Use your brain, Mike. Empathy, understanding, sympathy, feeling bad. Laugh out loud. All right. All right, let me give you guys an example. So I'll start off with an example and then I'll go into the explanation. Oh, okay, we have one more. Empathy is the ability to understand other people's feelings as if we're having them for ourselves. Sympathy refers to the ability to take part in someone else's feeling. I hope you didn't Google that, James, but great answer. Empathy creates action. Nice. Okay, awesome. So I'll give you guys an example, right? So this wasn't my test group, but say they had a test group of designers. They were all in the room. And then we're making them choose to design for accessibility. In this test group, we said at the end of the day, you have to use the bathrooms, right? So what they did is we waited for the users to like, we did a kind of a test where we roped their hands together and also roped their feet together. And before they had to use the bathroom, they had to hop to the bathroom. So that's pretty much like, so our persona or our users were like an older, elderly generation of people that were disabled. So their experience as a designer was completely different from, okay, I'm just getting up using the bathroom, and to the person where they're actually feeling pretty much kind of piggybacking off what James was saying, feeling the empathetic for the user. So sympathy, I feel sorry for you. I understand, but empathy, I really, as many ways I can, I put myself in that situation, and being hindered in that situation creates you to do better design decisions, also make better problem solving decisions from being that place of an empathetic user. Prime example, I'll give another one, accessibility. To the video I showed earlier, to the average person might be, okay, that's really convenient, right? But to this disabled veteran or someone who maybe lost their legs in war and battlefield, it's like, wow, I have a chance to get my life back and be normal again. So when you design, and not just designing, again, I want to get deeper into design thinking. It's beyond design. It's like a creative problem solving. You really want to be, hey, I'm this person for a day. How do I feel? What would it make a product that I really love to use? So awesome, great questions. I mean, great answers, guys. So let's go deeper into empathy and how we could create these processes. So the first way that we can create the process is really by going with a beginner's mind. So Sakichi, I'm sorry if I'm messing up his name, Toyota, is the Japanese inventor of Toyota, and he has the 5 why techniques that we use today. So my niece Ava, she's 4 years old. And then when you're implementing a design thinking approach, you go into a beginner's mind, you want to create a product or explain something where like a 4-year-old can understand it or your grandmother can understand it. So pretty much they start in the deep process of asking, well, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And then you ask that every time. And then from the why is that, you go deeper and deeper and deeper in a cause and effect of understanding. You start with the question, you get a little bit more feedback, you go deeper, that causes more questions. And that pretty much, that is still so successful in terms of beginner's mind that Toyota is still using it today in 2000 plus. So the philosophy and design thinking, again, like I said, all the steps are flexible, so you don't have to worry about that. We talked about empathizing from a user perspective. All right. And then we're going to go a little bit further into really, let's see if I'll go here. Okay, we'll stay a little further with really developing a beginner's mindset. So when you have a true beginner's mindset, we have all our assumptions, right? But you want to be able to observe without judgment. You want to question everything, and you want to be insanely curious when you have that beginner's mindset. And you also want to find patterns that are common among a lot of your user test groups. So we talked about Sakachi, the why is that, asking that over and over again 5 times. So the next step of the process in design thinking is define. This is where you clearly define the problem statement. So in design thinking speak, that would be what's called your design challenge. So in this design challenge, to me, this is almost important as empathize, because this really sets up your framework for your entire design thinking, right? So you think about it in terms of like, I don't have Google Maps or Apple Maps. I have like a compass and an old school map navigation. So I really have to really define the problem clearly because it's not going to recalculate for me. So again, this is the framework that sets up the rest of the process, and your define stage builds on data collected from the empathize phase. So again, we only have so much time for here, so I'm not going to go too deep into define, but if you actually want to look and see, I'll add this to the chat too. This gives you an entire worksheet from IDEO on how to implement the define phase and make sure that you answered all the important questions in the define phase. So I'll drop that in the chat as well. And then going more deeply into define, okay, write your design challenge down, keep it short and sweet. Try to make it one sentence as possible. Make sure you align your impact goals with it. And then there's also an impact worksheet that we have a link. Define who your audience is. That's building on your persona. A lot of that should have been defined in your empathize phase. Review your info and make sure the design questions feel right. And framing the right design challenge is the key to arriving at a good solution. All right, problem statement. Now, once you get here, this is how you know when your problem statement for the business case user or for the designers, your design challenge is completed. You have to be able to clearly articulate and answer these questions. You should be able to clearly answer, what are we trying to solve? For whom are we trying to solve? What different ways can we approach solving this problem? How can we act on it? If you can't answer those questions, you need to go back to the drawing board. And I'll pause just for a second, because Anyone have any questions? I understand like you can't video, but anything in the chat, feel free to pause and stop me at any time if you have any questions at all. Check it here. All right, I'll keep going. So further ways kind of to define, and this you could screenshot, and again, also save your Google Sheets, Gmail, and I could, or not Gmail, but whatever your email address, and I could send out these. But this is, again, further things for you kind of to research. Affinity diagrams, empathy maps, the 5 ways, space saturation, the 4 W's, group and space separation. Okay, simply the best. Yeah, so there's a link that is a little bit earlier in the chat, Matthew. If you put your email address on that Google Sheet, we could pretty much, I'm gonna send out all the, I'm gonna send out this PowerPoint to everyone. So that'll be a little bit easier so I can keep everyone in the same framework. So right now, I'll kind of go over a quick overview of what all these different things mean. But again, kind of Google it to further research. The main point of this is what I really wanted you all to get and understand, that design thinking is really a mindset that you have to have. And these different strategies or tactics are things you can implement it. So my last talk was per se last year at Startup Week. My friends gave one on design sprint. Design sprint is a tactic that you could use in terms of design thinking. So it's really about a type of mindset and a certain way of thinking that causes you to ask impactful questions that can really help you create innovative products. And again, I want to make this clear, this is not limited to designers. This is product owner, developers, businesses, anyone who wants to create innovative products. So some of the things I'll talk about. So we have the space, saturation, and affinity diagrams. So there you create collages and group insights and stories, observations, individual pieces, notes. They can be interconnected with each other. Empathy mathing goes a little bit deeper. Intense thought work, and their often parts offer the insights and help problem framing. Point of view statement, combining user description, needs, insights, and elements into one compelling actionable statement. The 4 W's. So in the 4 W's, this is more in questions and very inquisitive questions, asking the right questions, right? Who is experiencing this problem? Who are you focusing on while they're trying to solve the problem? What is the problem? The main point that stands in the user way. Where is the problem happening? Is it physical, mental, or digital? What is the context around the problem? Why is it important? Will the user get substantial value out of the problem being solved? So that is pretty much a lot of the defined steps. And Kelly, the kind of the same thing as Matthew. So if you go up, let me see, I'll drop it again. So we just want to kind of keep this here. If you fill out this Google Sheet, put your email there, and I will send out the slides to everyone. So that's kind of further research to go on yourself and define phase. The next step is ideate. So I almost kind of hate this statement because I'm a very quality person, but the reality is when you're ideating, you want to choose quantity over quality. So you're just throwing out as many ideas as possible. So this is where you're seeing all those, a lot of those sticky notes, and every time you're seeing design, you think all designers do with sticky notes, but it's really just brainstorming, getting ideas, looking for patterns, bringing out as much as possible, sketching, brainstorming, body storming. That goes into what someone, I can't recall who it was earlier, was saying, actually putting yourself in the user's shoes. So you're doing really active storytelling. So I love ideation as a first step. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, Mike, but you gotta, I like empathy because you might want something, but that might not be what the user needs. So, very project management. You know, I love it. Yes, ma'am. So sometimes we think the user wants a product, but I think empathy is most important because this we're designing their product, not what we want, you know, even though we're designers, Mike. I get what you're saying though, but this is a very brainstorming is a very, very fun process. And then after you brainstorm, the next step after we did all of this is where you prototype and test. So prototyping is a really cheap way to test out if your solutions work. Keep in mind, again, being a designer or a business person, right? I know we're attached to our ideas, but what you have to understand is someone's rebuttals are equally as important, if not more important, than just the validation of their ideas. So you have to take all that in account and take it back to the entire design thinking process if they're really giving you actionable rebuttals. And usually, another thing that's different for designers, a lot of times they don't recommend high fidelity prototypes because you go fast, but if you're implementing the design thinking process, you want to do high fidelity prototypes because you want your user, your end user to be realistic and connected to the application as much as possible. So you want to really shoot for high fidelity prototypes at this juncture. So when you're prototyping, let's continue. So again, we can't go too far off, but we can't go too off with the other way either, right? So some of the main things you want to look at this kind of Venn diagram, you want to make sure it's feasible, it's viable, and it's desirable. So it's kind of like walking a tightrope. You want to have that delicate balance, right? You don't want to go so far and you're thinking about React and the back end or all this stuff, but you don't want to go so on the other end and be too loose where you have kind of like a written out sketch prototype because the people won't know how to really interact with your app or your product. And again, I'm speaking so much in terms of technology, but giving them something, it doesn't per se have to be an app or a website. Design thinking, for the people that may have came on later, this is a methodology and it's a mindset. So it's really built for innovation of products. So if you're doing it in terms of the digital world, some things that I would recommend for high fidelity mockups would be Adobe XD, Figma, Sketch, or InVision. If you want video and audio, I would recommend Flinto. And if you want to do some basic programmable actions, but you don't want to per se hire a developer, which I don't recommend in the juncture of prototyping and testing, Azure or Framer can do programmable actions. And same thing, once we got through all those different stages, the prototyping, define, now you have to test and user testing, right? So good places to start would be usertesting.com. The data list is a good place to test as well. And yeah, and then Veronica, so Cassandra, I wish I could pin this here, but I don't know if they have a pin feature, but she dropped a link to where you can actually put your email and you'll get you'll get all the slides. So I just kind of want to have everyone's emails in one place and I can just send out the slides all together. Awesome. Thank you so much, Cassandra. So some of the places that you can go to test your app will be usertesting.com and beta lists. Also, again, when you're doing testing, you went through all these phases, so you should have a pretty strong persona of who you want to test. So have that persona ready when you're testing your application or product. And here we kind of have some more helpful links. So if you want to really go through a workshop and workforces through books, there's Design Sprint 2.0 by IDEO. And they really did a lot when it comes to like marketing this design thinking process. We have Enterprise Design Sprints, and there's another design kit Design Kit org by IDEO as well. And again, here's the thing to download the slides. And here's kind of my info. So you guys can feel free to connect with me at LinkedIn, join the meetup group. And at this time, I guess, so I saved about 15 minutes here. If you guys have does anyone have any questions on design thinking, any processes that they were confused on and they want to go a little bit further in detail on, please drop it in the chat as well. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Pete. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of information, so I really can do a talk on each one. But I think the most important thing is like you guys knowing the mindset and the process, because again, empathize is the most important thing. That's what really stands out design thinking from lean, agile, and all these other methodologies. That it's a user first, human centered approach. And again, you could look and search for things like affinity maps or how to run a design sprint. The sticky notes, all that good stuff. But the main gist of it is looking in the frames of the user and also validating your product with tests, because a lot of times we have products that people don't need. We think they need it, but the best way to validate is to test it and start that process all over again. So can you please share some more examples of how you implemented this, anecdotes, lesson learned, putting teams together? Okay, yes. So right now, so I work, that's a great question, James. Right now, besides my business, I'm a lead developer and designer at a financial services institution. So 2 of our campaigns, we actually introduced this design thinking process. So Wealth and Transition, that's actually our award-winning campaign, and we're actually doing a little bit more awards with that. And we also did one for Harness Volatility. So they're talking about in terms of stocks and stuff. So it's hard to really make a financial institution exciting, but we did. So with that, we did the affinity mapping process as well as notes and user testing and research. So designers, business managers, directors, financial writers, they all got in a room, and we started with kind of like the harness volatility. And then one thing when you're implementing these processes, what I like about this is when I do it in a way where the hippo, right? So the hippo is like the highest person in the room, highest paid person in the room, or the lead doesn't have all the say, because some people are a little bit more shy. And a lot of times in these processes, you write notes and you do things like that. You do the sticky notes, you put them on the wall, and you see where patterns of how we're talking about are created. And from the patterns, we take kind of the best. And we did that from the basics of the title, from the imagery, pretty much every step of the process. We did design thinking with these award-winning campaigns. And then our clients are basically financial advisors as well as financial institutions. So our persona is a little bit different from the average person. So we're not per se directly to the consumer. We have our financial advisor or financial institutional investor in the middle before you get to our end client. But so our focus is kind of on the financial advisor and the institutional investor. But that's pretty much how we implemented a lot of our processes. Okay, any design insights on productized services, how to sell services versus goods online with one click? We have a variety of platforms on our platform market, trying to educate them on how to sell their products. 20%. So I pretty much don't have the way that I think. The pricing. So I have another person that's going to be talking Wednesday, and he might still be on this call. Mike Bigos, make sure you're there Wednesday at 10 a.m. storytelling for your business. Yep, he's still there. So, but I'll just let you know kind of how I price, right? So I price per se based on a value. And I think I'm not going to give way too much of his presentation, but he'll kind of go deeper into value-based pricing, because depending on, that's when you get there asking a lot of these imperative or these thoughtful questions is what really makes you an expert in terms of how you price things, right? So sometimes you can price per hour, sometimes you can price per service, but it really depends on who is your client and what's the goal for them. So it gets into deeper, like what is the story of the brand and what they're really trying to achieve. So when it comes to pricing, it really is thoughtful questions and really understanding your client's business, and each client is really different. So yes, same thing Mike is saying, value, firm fix, or delivery-based pricing. So yeah, it just depends. So I don't do a flat out price and fee. It really depends. It really depends on the client's needs and the client's story. And Michael will get deep into that. He has a whole presentation about storytelling and stuff on your business, and that's his entire, that's his lane. So feedback. So make sure you're here 10 a.m. Wednesday. Check out Mike's presentation. Awesome, awesome. So that I think I'm all talked out. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with me for this. And I'll be excited to see you on the next sessions.